Hello and welcome to Aspects of Writing. I'm your host, James Kelly, and my co-host for today's show is Janet Corsi, and our panelist is Joyce K. Gatchenberger. Our guest is Michal Stawicki. Is that correct?
Almost good.
Okay. And the topic of the show is finding the time to write. Our guest is Michal Stawicki, and Michal is on the air with us from Warsaw, Poland. He has written or co-authored about 17 books. Is that about right? 17?
Yes, about right.
Yeah,
With
okay.
translations and other editions, it's even more.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. You have been married for more than 15 years. You have 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. He works in the IT industry and commutes almost 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, in addition to being an author. So what else can you tell us about Michal?
Well, I think this audience is interested in writing, yeah? So I've been an author for 6 years, yeah? I was 33 when I discovered I want to write, which was pretty crazy, yeah? I was IT specialist and had no idea what does it even mean. I remember that I discovered after 2 months that writers write, yeah? It's this what you should do every day.
Yeah.
That's really crazy. Well, I started like changing my life and getting interested in writing and rediscovering this dream after reading The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. It is a book I really recommend. It says about success and failure and what this really is, and his definitions, he borrowed them from Jim Rohner. Success is just a few simple disciplines repeated every time, and failure is a few error in judgment repeated over time.
I want to ask you a little bit more about your past, because you were talking to us before we went on the air about how you, at one time, it was difficult to communicate. Like, you're in Warsaw, Poland, and we're sitting here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and there was a time when we wouldn't be able to do this. And you were saying that you were actually cut off from the world for a while. You only had 2 television stations, and now the whole world's opened up to you.
Yeah, that's amazing. We were behind the Iron Curtain till 1989, and I was 10 there.
Oh,
so
wow.
till 10, all I knew was just Poland. And really, everything I knew from the outside world was some propaganda from our communist government, that's all. So it is really amazing to connect with people all over the world.
So how did you get into IT?
Well, economic transformation from communism to capitalism was pretty tough, and I am a bright guy and I just wanted to do something so I can support my family, and IT sounded like a good plan. Only that's why I started doing this, I think, studying this, and I have quite a bit formal education, university on the economic faculty, specialization IT. So I just wanted to have a roof over my head and food on the table.
Did anyone guide you in that direction, or do you just choose it on your own?
Well, that was, let me think, 1994. So IT was a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And when I had like my first computer 2 years before, so it was interesting for me.
So the computer was fascinating. It was for me. I know during that time that was for me. I was learning things as well.
I was learning things, yes, true, but wasting a lot of time gaming too.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to go into today's topic, and I'm going to start off by asking you, well, the topic is finding the time to write. You are self-published, or are you traditionally published?
I'm self-published.
Okay, and how and why did you decide to self-publish?
Easy. I just have had no idea how I could traditionally publish. So
Okay.
it was like,
Good answer.
That is a good
yeah,
answer.
yeah. There was like no chance I could be traditionally published. That's why I chose the road for self-publishing.
All right. Joyce, I'm going to let you take this first part here.
Certainly. I was listening to you, Michal, and I was noticing also that there was some information on Amazon author page that you have, and I'll just read a little bit and you can kind of talk about it in a bit. It says, in August of 2012, I read a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and you already talked a little bit about that. It said, on your page, it says, it took me a whole month to start implementing ideas from that book. It led me to reading numerous other books on personal development, some effective, some not so effective. I took a look at myself and decided this was one person who could surely use some development. I'm assuming you're referring to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. In November of 2012, I created my personal mission statement. I considered it the real starting point of my progress. Over several months' time, I applied several self-help concepts and started building inspiring results. I lost some weight, greatly increased my savings, built new skills, and got rid of bad habits while developing better ones. And so as I was reading that, I was wondering a couple things that you've already mentioned. First of all, the slight edge. It sounds like that was a success, failure kind of aha moment for you in your life. And the other things that you mentioned were your like physical appearance and your mental development, your psychological road. So could you talk a little bit about that?
About which one?
First of all, what made you choose that particular book, and what in that book kind of was a blinking light for you?
Well, I say it was God's providence that made me choose that book. I was in vacations in Ireland, visiting my parents. Also, my sister was there, and she's traveling all over the world because she's a dancer. Oh. And she was reading this book, and I was bored, so I borrowed it from her and read it in like one day because I am a lifelong reader. And I was like avoiding personal development for 16 years because I decided it's just not for me. It doesn't work for me. But when I read this book, I was like, well, maybe he is right. In my mind, the concept of success was, well, it's something grand like golden Olympic medal. Oh, that's a success, or having multi-million-dollar company. But he said it's just doing simple, small things very, very consistently. And for me, it was puzzling. Yeah, it cannot be so simple. But then I took inventory of my past successes, and always I found some simple discipline behind my successes, like getting on the university.
Oh, yeah, so you went to college, yeah.
Yeah, and well, I was feared but last admitted because of my results. But I had been studying 1 hour a day a year before during vacations just to avoid this knowledge gap, which is usual between 1 year and another. And then I was feared but last on the admission list, but on the 4th year I was among the top 25% of students, and I tracked down the discipline behind that. I was attending all the lectures, and my brighter peers they didn't. Yeah, it was such simple things.
So that 1 hour a day made a huge difference.
Yeah, and then just attending all the lectures, nothing else. I had already, my family started, so I have 2 small boys, some odd jobs, and little time for education. But I was at the lectures every single time, and they weren't. That was that's why I had better grades than them.
Determination.
And that's what you have in common with Joyce, because Joyce did the same thing. She had already started a family. And how many children did you have when you went back to school?
3.
She had 3, and she went back and got her degree with 3 children.
Yes.
You used to take your kids to the classroom.
Yes, I did, Michal. What I did is I had 3 small children, and what I did is schedule my classes so that I had time in between each class. And on one shoulder, I would have my book bag, and on the other shoulder, I have my diaper bag, and away we went.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Amazing.
So it
amazing.
is. So
Kudos to you.
it's a
Yes.
lot of a determination. It's not
Yes.
just organizing your time. It's determination as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like also what I'm hearing you say is that when you had success in one part of your life, you had success in other parts of your life, not only education, but personal growth.
Yeah, that's true. But it was like, thanks to the Slight Edge, this book, I understood that it's like a law of nature. It's always like this. If you apply consistent effort, you will reap
The benefits.
the fruits.
Mhm.
That's like the law of nature. It's always like that. You cannot do something and not get results. Well, you can if you do something else, which is like in direct opposition. Yeah, you exercise and then you eat a ton of sweets. So
Yeah, right.
it's but if you do one thing consistently,
It
it's
makes a
always
difference,
now I'm brighter. Yeah, I have 6 years of experience, but it was a light bulb for me. Now I can tell you with the 100% conviction that this is true in every aspect of life. I applied it to my fitness, my relationships, my spiritual life, my education, everything. I always got results whenever I was consistent.
Yeah, I think Jan has a question
yeah,
for you.
I was very interested in and heard this that you had been quite overweight. How much overweight and how is that?
Not much. It was like 10 pounds too much.
Uh-huh.
So I was just around a bit. Well, and
So how did 10 pounds affect you though? Because Lord knows I could lose at least 10.
yeah, I have a book about this, The Fitness Expert Next Door, when I explain my whole Michal story. But my immediate reason to shed off this excess weight was that my back was in pain, and it was like infuriating because I was disabled like every 2 months for a few days. It was just several pounds. I injured my spine when I jumped into a pool when I was 16, and it wasn't really bad my whole life, but it accumulated. And when I had this additional weight, well, every few months I got some serious pain. I was like sick of this and decided, okay, I will do something about
How
it.
did that? All right. Well, first of all, that's another thing you have in common with Joyce,
Yes,
because she had been overweight as a child.
yes. When I graduated from 8th grade, I don't know if that translates to Poland, but that's before we go into high school, I was well over 250 pounds. And
Whoa.
you can imagine how that affects you psychologically and socially. People look at you and automatically say you are disabled in every way. So, yeah, it affects your life. It affects your back hurts, and your social life suffers.
And I'm just curious, did this in any way affect your writing with what you did? Because I have a feeling that was a journey into how you started writing.
I'm saying that my fitness really started everything in my life. I discovered a few years studying personal development that exercises are a keystone habit. So a habit that generates other habits without your conscious effort. And it was like this with me, because really the first habit that came to my mind while reading the Slight Edge was my push-ups habit. I have been doing push-ups for now 12 years, like every single day, or if I was very sick, then not, but about so consistently. And immediately clicked in when I read the book that, okay, this was consistent effort and I got better. That really works. In case of my weight loss, I discovered that it really affected my self-image and my levels of confidence, despite the fact that it wasn't really I wasn't much overweight. Yeah, it was 10 pounds, nothing above the high
normal.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
probably the average person's about 5 to 10 pounds overweight.
Yeah, exactly. But I discovered early after losing that weight that I feel better. Yeah, I look in the mirror and I'm just more energetic, and it really affected me.
Yeah, just more success. And it sounds like when you have a direction in your life, if you use that for your everyday life, then you'll succeed at so many other things if you just keep with a plan for all things.
Yeah, you can't let something interrupt what you're trying to do. And there's always going to be obstacles in the way, always. So you just have to keep going forward no matter what.
Right.
And,
Amen.
I understand that, trust me.
Yes. Absolutely.
So most of your books are self-help and
because I
building?
write from my experience about what worked for me and how it can work for you. So I just translate my experience into books and try to help people to get things they want, which I got, like losing weight, or one of my books is The Art of Persistence, quite unusual topic. My friends nicknamed me Mr. Consistency. And, and they were asking me again and again. That's why I decided to write a book about this. Okay, I get this. It's important to be consistent. But how the heck can you be so consistent so well? I tried to distill this topic to several things that really worked for me.
Yeah, and that's something we don't have in our lives that we really need, and that is consistency. To get up at the same time during the day, to go to bed at the same time 7 days a week, not just a couple of days a week just because you got work the next day. We here in Vegas have a tendency to Friday night is party night, Saturday night's party night, and then we suffer Sunday and we go back to work Monday and we wish not to. It's just that's the way we are here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, Michal, you have two websites. Explain, you have two, is that right? You have two websites, correct?
I have more than that, but...
Oh no, what did we open up there? But you have one called Expand Beyond Yourself.
Yes, that's my personal blog. And I started it because I follow Steve Scott, who is very, very successful self-publisher. And, well, he explained, you as an author need a platform on the internet. So I started the blog, and it's my foothold on the internet. Whenever someone types Michal Stawicki into Google, well, it's one of the top results. So this is my author's foothold. So you can buy my books from there. I redirect them to visitors to other platforms to buy my books. You can read my stuff. You can sign up to my email list and so on. So I use it to launch my books. And of course, also it's a blog. I publish income reports on that page as a self-publisher. And now I'm entrepreneur because I have this book advertising service.
So what is michaelzone.com? Or I'm sorry, Michal.
Yep.
Zone.com.
It's just a landing page. So readers, when they read my books, I say them, if this connected with you and you want to follow me, go to this page and sign up to my email list, and that's it, nothing else. And it was created by my publisher. I have a short episode with a small publisher back in 2014, I suppose. So
Okay.
they created this for me, and it worked much better than what
Yeah, because I know you have to have
before.
an email. You have to put your email address in order to access that site.
Yep.
Yes.
That's kind of clever because
Yeah.
it encourages people to give you their email address, which is a good way of creating an email address list, for future books and stuff.
Exactly.
Michal, I was going to ask you a question. You mentioned habits earlier in the discussion, and it sounds as though you're very disciplined in your writing. And so we're talking about, how do you find time for writing? And I would imagine you write every single day, no matter what's in your schedule. One of the first things you probably get done in your schedule is your writing. Is that true? Am I on base there?
Absolutely. I've been writing every single day since 23rd of September 2013, and I have a log of my writing. So, I'm very disciplined about this because, well, I want to be a writer, and writers write. So it's like the one simple discipline I can do every day.
So
really
where do you
be
find
a writer.
where do you find the time to write? When do you write? You commute to work. Do you utilize that time for writing?
Absolutely. When I had been working full time and spending like 3 to 5 hours a day on trains and so on.
Oh, heavens.
I wrote on trains, and like 80% of my writing was created during the commute. Now I work only 10 hours a week, but still I have to travel to the capital 3 times a week. So, and yes, I use that time for writing. Now when I have more like power over my schedule, I really like to wake up in the morning, do my morning ritual, and write, have it out of my way first thing in the morning. This is what happened today. It's Sunday, so on Sunday I don't work, but I write a novel for fun, and just to keep my writing streak alive.
Well, we have we know someone in Australia who does that too. His name is Pat Ritter. He gets up every morning and he submits a page that he's written to his readers over Facebook, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
For them to read. And he does this every day, 5 days a week. I don't think he does it 7, but I know he does it 5 days a week, where he submits that page over the internet for his readers.
Amazing. Kudos. I really am not so consistent, I would say. I write every day, but I don't publish every day.
Okay.
I publish something on Quora. I try to do it every day, but most of the time I republish something else, from my blog or Medium or whatever. And I jump from topic to topic. That's why I was able to keep my writing streak for so long, because I don't just push myself to write about some specific thing. If I am bored with my novel, I switch to a Quora answer, or I start a new book, or whatever. So
I like that idea. That's what I do too.
This is strict, but also flexible, and this is what really keeps habits alive. When they are somehow strict, you have to do something. And every day you have to show up, but it's flexible, so we can modify it every single day.
And that's what I was going to
depending on the
ask you.
circumstances.
Yeah, because you can get really bored with something really quick, and or you can get stumped and think, well, what direction am I going to go in here? But if you have another project you can work on, you'll end up going back to that with a new, fresh mind and a new insight.
Yeah,
and I do that as well. I do that a lot, probably more than I should. But
like most of us, I suppose, because we are creative beings, writers, and I have like few dozen of unfinished projects, and it's really crazy, But on the other hand, I produced those 15 plus books and thousands, over 1,000 Quora answers and hundreds of blog posts and so on. So, it somehow works.
Yeah.
That's true success, though, is having more things going on, because failure is having nothing going on. And
Amen.
but here in Vegas, now I jump in my car and drive to work every day. It takes me 20 minutes to get there. I can't be writing while I'm driving. And so we don't have that commute thing on the West Coast here. Maybe the East Coast people would have a better advantage.
Yeah, in the bigger cities.
Yeah. But so I guess what we need to do is discipline ourselves to get up maybe like a half hour earlier than normal and dedicate that half hour.
But now
least.
even Michal says that he is only working 3 days a week. So on the other 4 days, how disciplined are you on those days? Do you force yourself to get up at a certain time, or do you just take a certain amount of time during the day to write?
This second thing, but most of the time I really want to do it as soon as possible and be done with it. Yeah, I have plenty other things to do, but this is the most important thing. Yeah, I am crazy about this because I was in Nashville a few weeks back on my masterminds retreat.
Okay.
And I was talking with a guy. He asked me what I do. I'm an author. I write, but it's 11 a.m. and I haven't yet written, and I just felt my fingers itching for writing. Yeah, and really, when there was a break, I just took my laptop and started to write. Really, it's almost compulsive right now.
So do you find that going to the conventions and doing seminars helps with both not only just selling your work, but encourages you with the writing?
That definitely helps on so many levels. I don't know if you know the book of Sean Acor, The Big Potential.
The Big Potential.
He discovered, and this book is about this, that when you cooperate with others, you are so much better than you doing your own thing. Even if you are really good, you can take a pack of geniuses and the pack of pretty average people, and those average people will beat geniuses every single time if they will cooperate, and geniuses will not.
Right.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah. So when you go wherever and connect with people, you are always better by that.
Yeah, collaboration is better than distance.
Right, and
it's not
the
just
networking
better.
is really important.
It's not just better; it's like 100 times better.
Yeah.
And everyone has this in our head that I have to have good grades or be a New York Times bestseller or whatever.
Yeah.
And me all the time. And this is wrong thinking. If you think day all the time, you will be so successful you cannot imagine. And I can give you stories the rest of the evening how it was really with my writing career.
Now, is this rubbed off on your children? Did they have a set format for their own lives where they get up in the mornings and participate in something prior to going to school or whatever?
Not really. Not really. They are average bunch.
Maybe you should have them read your books.
Yeah, I should.
Yes.
All right, Mimi Manuel. How did you? Mimi is the one who gave us, the direction to go to you, to contact you. So how do you know Mimi?
Well, I met her via, if I recall correctly, Paul Brody, who is my book advertising service customer.
And he's actually going to be on our show as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. So he connected us because he thought that my service would be beneficial for Mimi. And we started cooperation with Mimi, and her books are selling really well on Amazon. That's how we know each other.
Yeah, I have one of her books.
She's a great connector. She's a great connector. Yeah, I'm on this show because of her, and she already gave me several leads to other authors to work with them.
Yeah, she is great. Yeah, she actually sent me a copy of one of her books, The Holy Grail of what is it, marketing? I have it over there somewhere.
Yes, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Or promoting. And, I couldn't believe she sent me that book. It's a thick book. It's a big book.
Yes, it is.
So I was really amazed that she did that. So she's a great person.
Yeah. Fun to talk to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Paul Brody, he's going to be on our show as well. How did you make that connection?
I think we know each other from a Facebook group. It is created by Pat Flynn for writing his Furious book, and now it's a quite lively group of self-publishers. We are in contact. We exchange tips for which work, marketing tips, writing tips, who is a good editor, and so on and so on. So we met there, and when I announced I start something with Amazon ads, he was interested.
I have to tell you, my reason for asking that, it's really amazing when you sit back, and you had said this in the beginning of the show, you're sitting there in Warsaw, Poland. The whole process of finding everyone is so unique because I found Mimi through Pat Ritter, and Pat Ritter found me on the internet. Then she introduced me to you. Can't remember who introduced me to Paul Brody. I think he just sent me an email. Probably Mimi mentioned it to him. And what's interesting is you're in Poland. She's in Australia. Pat's in Australia. Paul's in Texas, and we're sitting here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Nevada.
I mean, what a world.
Yeah.
The world is really a small place today.
Yes, it is.
And the fact that we can all communicate this way is just absolutely mind-blowing. When I grew up, I couldn't even imagine this. There was no way I would even imagine this being able to. I remember the party lines where you had to say, can you get off the phone so we can talk?
Yeah, right.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and you were talking earlier, too, about being behind the Iron Curtain. Kids today, like I have a daughter who's 28 years old. I'll bet she doesn't even know what the Iron Curtain is.
Yeah, she'd probably say, why do they have an iron curtain?
What is that? Yeah. And
why waste so much iron?
Yeah,
right.
Yes.
How big was that curtain?
And I would imagine once that was dropped, it seemed like a whole different world to you, that it was not anything like what you knew it to be.
Yeah, especially as a writer.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, for me, I was a kid. I was 10 years old, so it wasn't like I was just exploring the world. So it just expanded. For the kid, it's normal. For my parents, that was like a shock. But now they live in Ireland, for example. So, my father was 50 when he emigrated to Ireland, and he didn't know English at all. Now he speaks pretty fluently. So,
That right there is amazing.
That is, yes.
Yeah, I was having a problem hearing you for a minute. I thought maybe the mic went off. So, but
okay.
we're fine now. We're fine now. So,
More technical adjustments.
Yes, little technical.
yes.
Yeah, because you go back 1985 and back, your parents wouldn't even considered moving to Ireland. I wouldn't think.
Absolutely.
Well, it wouldn't have been an option.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't have gotten permission to.
I remember when I was like 12 or 13, I went first time abroad to Czech Republic, and there was a lot of paperwork to do. Still, despite the fact that we were liberated, so
right,
it was just flatly impossible in '95.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
Michal, I wanted to ask you a question on that same vein of thought. Is there any censorship in writing in Poland where you are now in the state of affairs? Do you find that people censor anything that you write in your books or anything on the web pages that you have?
Censorship by who? What do you mean?
Anybody that is in the public realm, do they say to you, don't write about politics, or don't write about relationships, or don't write about the state of the government? Is there any kind of directive that you get as a writer to do or not do certain things?
I think that the only censorship really now is political correctness. That's all. And it's like, if you don't care, you can still write those things. well,
So there's no repercussions for writing what you feel.
Well, the only repercussion is that if you are like you have strong point about something, many people will dislike you, and
Oh,
Well,
many
that's true
people
everywhere.
and a few people will be your strong supporters. Yeah, so that's it. That's it. But really, in my country, and well, I would say up to Russia on the east, it's pretty free world, almost the
Good.
same like
Yeah.
in the US.
Marvelous.
Yeah,
Marvelous.
that's great. How many times have you been to the U.S.? Because you just mentioned you were in Nashville a few months ago.
I was twice.
Twice?
Yep, and both this year.
And Nashville was one city. What was the other city you visited?
It was also Nashville because our retreats are located in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, you're going to have to see more of the U.S.
Yeah. You're going to have to
Well,
come to
I
Vegas.
saw Chicago because that was like the
Stop off?
One stop. Yep.
Yeah. So did you get a chance to see much of the city while you were there, or was it all work?
It was all pleasure, and I'm not a tourist stuff. I love to connect with people, and I've been meeting with those guys every week for several months. So it was awesome to meet face to face, to hug them, to spend time with them, and I also scheduled meetings with my Ritter, who is on my email list, and when I wrote to my email list that I'm going to Nashville, he immediately jumped the chance to meet with me, and I met with Dave Chesson. He's the owner of kindlepreneur.com, amazing guy. I met with Rebecca Patrick Howard. She's an author. She has amazing story, and she's an amazing person. So yeah, I love connecting with people, and really, whatever the place is, really.
All
I
right.
don't
So
care.
how is it sitting in Warsaw to sell your books all over the world, and how hard do you work at it, and how do you go about finding your audience?
Well, as I mentioned, my mentor is Steve Scott, and I just followed whatever he taught me, and he was teaching from his experience, and he's very successful. So, yeah, like create a web page so you have your foothold on the internet, create your email list, so offer something to the people so they will sign up, and then with the future releases, you have more people to contact. Build connection with other authors, and it's really important, and it's really impactful. And now, since like September, so 2 years, September 2016, I use really mostly Amazon ads. So people find me, not.
Oh, that's
not
good.
I
Yeah.
am, not I am finding them.
All right.
So
How much do you lecture on basically managing your time, or do you do seminars on that at all? Like, what do you suggest to people on how to utilize their time?
well, I wrote a book, Master Your Time in 10 Minutes a Day. It was my 5th book and my first bestseller. But I don't like do seminars about this. I can give my friend a tip if he wants one. What I advise really is have your priorities. That's one thing. Like with my writing, this is really my daily priority, and the first thing I want to do every day. So have your priorities. At the beginning, the absolutely amazing exercise for you will be keeping a time journal.
And it really keeps us young with the writing because it keeps the mind active. It really does keep the mind going, and I think it's one of the best therapies. I know you had already pretty much retired from nursing when you started writing. Is that correct, Joyce?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Correct. I had been a school teacher for many years. Then I was a nurse, or I am a nurse, but I was actively working for 35 years. and then through life, retired and started writing, although I will say there's a formal and informal writing period. I was always a writer, as Michal was saying, you always write because writers write. But actively, after retiring, is when I formally began writing. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. But did you have to discipline yourself? How do you write?
I have a book that I carry with me all the time. It's a small notebook, and every time I'm in the grocery store, at a doctor's office, or in a conversation, I write and I listen to things that are of interest, and I write it down in the book. And I make a point, as soon as I get home from wherever I'm at, I sit down, I take that phrase, and I put it in my computer, because I'm always writing something. It always fits somewhere. I have a blog that I maintain on health and wellness, and I am always writing a book. And so I put it in somewhere, and I don't leave my desk until I use that phrase.
Well, I find I have to write every day.
Yes.
Not
every
just
day.
for my own self, but I help with the show. And then in addition to that, I have a smartphone. So if I'm driving, I'll actually dictate into the smartphone. It's connected to my car. And then in addition to that, if I'm somewhere where I'm out to breakfast or lunch or dinner, I'll actually text something in if I need to in my notes. The great thing is that I don't always go back to those, but by writing it down, it's easier for me to remember.
Yes.
It's easier for me to think, okay, what did I put there today? So then when I do get back to the office or I do get ready to put something onto the computer, it's in my mind. It's almost like I tell a story, like I've done this with Jan many times. I'll have 2 or 3 dreams a week, and I get up about 4 in the morning, and I'll type those dreams into the computer. And what I find is because it's so early in the morning, I do that so I don't forget the outline. But what helps the greatest on that isn't just the writing process. I tell that story to someone.
Yeah.
Whether it be Jan or Barry or maybe you, Joyce. I'll tell a story so that it's always in my mind. And I don't know why, but I'll never forget it once I've told it.
Because it makes it real.
Yeah, I guess so.
Once you write it and then you tell it.
It makes it real.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is your process for doing that when you write something? Michal.
Well, it's good thing to have some prompts like you. It's actually really much easier when I know that the next day I will be writing my book, or in 2 days I have to publish my income report. So I have to, tomorrow I need to write my income report. It's like 50% of work done if you know what to do. And I have my writing ritual, which is flexible, and that's because of my hectic schedule back in then when I started. So I just tell a short prior that I just wrote myself, asking for guidance, and then open my writing log, note down the time, the place, what I'm writing, and I'm starting, because I have this rule that I need to write. Right now, it's half an hour and at least 600 words a day. So I need to meet those criteria, then I'm done for the day. Sometimes it's longer and more, and that's okay, but it cannot be less. And also I put earphones and start a soundtrack, which is instrumental soundtrack, no songs, so I don't get distracted with the text. And it helps, especially in trains.
Yes.
So you don't hear anything else but the music, and I write. Then at the end, I note down in my writing log the time, number of words, and that's the end of the ritual.
That's a good discipline.
Yeah, it
Yes,
is. But
it
I
is.
also have to correct myself. I do both. I actually sometimes will tell a story and then write it down. But either way, I need to verbally say it because once I've said it, it's in my mind, and I can't forget it. But it's interesting what you said about putting the earphones in and listening to music. If I'm structuring a novel that I have to get finished, and I usually do freehand before I put it in the computer, I will go to a restaurant where it's noisy, And there's something about that makes me tune everything out so I can focus directly on that book. Now, sometimes I will take my laptop, so I am typing it into the computer, but I do like the noise in the background. Not screaming and yelling, but, just the clitter and the clatter of what's going on in the restaurant.
Like a coffee shop.
Absolutely. And when I lived in Atlanta, there was one specific restaurant I used to go into. They said, here's your booth for today.
Yeah.
Because I'd be there for 3 or
Right.
4 hours sometimes. And I always made sure they got a proper tip, because I was taking up their space. But they really, they liked the fact that I would go in there and sit and they didn't know how I was doing it. But I need that. I need that background noise. It's difficult for me to be in total silence and doing this.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I love classical music, so I listen to classical music when I write.
Yeah, I write just. I have on my soundtrack plenty of movie pieces, like from Game of Thrones or Pirates from Caribbean, and some melodies from my youth. But they are all quite energetic, quite loudly.
Yeah.
Not slow, and it's helped me to separate from
What do you do,
from
Joyce?
the outside world, really.
When I'm getting ready to write and I know that it's going to be a session, I don't know how you write or other people write, but a session is for like 3 or 4 hours for me that is just blocked out in time. I get my physical books out, like my thesaurus and my dictionary and my other reference points. And I also have writing tools on my computer. And I get to the point where I've already got my emails or whatever done. And so I know that block of time. I shut the door, I close the door, I go into a room where I write, I open my computer, and there's nothing there but my characters and I.
Okay.
And my characters lead me in my writing.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah,
I
same with
always
mine.
say my characters are cooperating today.
Yes.
Or they're not cooperating. And it's like they get in a log jam and they won't move. And so I get up out of my chair, I walk around the room, I kind of talk to my characters, I physically move my arms around or move my body or walk or whatever, kind of loosen the log jam, and then go back and sit down, go and face my laptop or my computer, and the cooperation of the characters comes back. And so then I start writing again. But it's a block of time.
But don't you find it amazing, like with my characters, they actually come to life. And I've actually had characters tell me halfway through the book they were married. And I had to go back and say, why didn't you tell me that in the beginning?
That's right. You're
Yes.
talking as though it's real life. They
So
are
now I
real
have to go back and
characters.
put the wife in there.
Yes. Or they were 15 and you wrote them as 20.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So why didn't you tell me you were a teenager? I would have put other things in there. Yes, that's how it is.
Do we even hear each other? We are nuts, right?
Yes, I know.
Yes.
But it is true, though. I mean, there are really famous authors out there who will tell you that you never let the characters guide you. But I think that the majority would say just the opposite of that. You know, the characters do drive the story, and they do come to life. And I told you this before, I think, Joyce and Jan. In the beginning, when I wrote my first novel, when I would be out there giving a synopsis or a story about the novel, someone would ask me, I would get so engrossed in what I'm telling them. I was telling them this whole character story, and they'd say, do you know these people? Or,
Yes.
you know, or was this a soap opera, or do you know these people? And I go, no, it's my story.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I tell it like it's people that I've actually met and know.
Yeah.
And in my mind, they really are real characters.
Yes.
I mean, I know the difference, but the point is in my mind, when I'm telling that synopsis or when I'm writing that book,
Yes.
they're real.
Yes. You're in the setting with them. You're in the store, or you're on the street corner, or you're at the library, and you're physically interacting with your characters as though you're an avatar.
Yeah.
You're right there.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Yeah.
My husband used to try to not listen to me when I would be talking to him about writing my book and stuff, and he would be and then I would tell him something about something my character had done. He'd say, when were they here? No, they were never here. They're in the book. Says, pay attention.
Now, you write novels as well, Michal, is that correct?
Not really. I just have one, which is over 2,100 words, but I will write it on Sundays.
You
just
better
to
make that like
keep
3
my writing
books.
streak alive.
Or 4.
Well, it's like the volume 1, really. out of 10, something like this, I think. Well, I don't ever intend to publish it, but I write it to keep my writing streak. Speaking of dreams, I dream very, very rarely, but I had a few very vivid dreams when I got up in the morning and I was like, I had to write it down. I have like 2-3 outlines of really terrific stories I wouldn't have thought about without those dreams. Really crazy stories. Yeah, it's amazing.
And you know, the other thing about the whole process of being creative in writing is that oftentimes someone will come up and say, I had this idea for a story, and they'll just give me like a 1 or 2 sentence thing. I become obsessed if it's a good idea, and then I cannot stop until I've created the entire outline for that book or script, because often it's movie script. And or we did this on the radio show once. We did an experiment where we started off with the panel, and we were talking about creative writing, and we actually started off, I think I started off by saying there was a toothbrush on the floor.
Right.
And then next thing you know, the next person would say the toothbrush had dropped behind the cornice board. And then they remodeled the bathroom and it was covered over, but was remodeled only after someone had been murdered in that bathroom, and the construction people came in and kicked toothbrush to the back. And then when the new couple came in and bought the house, they decided to remodel and pulled that up and found this bloody toothbrush. Then there was an investigation, and they found out someone had been murdered in the house.
Right.
And then we found out, I mean,
it went on and on. It was
it's
great.
amazing how
I
the
imagine
creative
it would.
mind can work.
Yes.
It's interesting how we all think differently, but how working together in a collaboration, you can actually create a story in as little as 2 or 3 minutes.
Well, you know, the people who bought that house, they're both husband and wife forensic technicians.
Yes,
And
that's
when-
exactly.
And when they remodeled the house and found the bloody toothbrush, they each had their own investigative team come in and do their own different investigations, and they each tracked down the murder victim.
Well, the fingerprints were on the toothbrush.
Well, see, she took the fingerprints and he took the bloody forensic.
Jump in,
Yeah.
Michal. Jump in.
Yeah.
But, you know... but we're really getting off topic here. But, you know, our whole thing is about time. And when it comes to finding the time to do it, I don't have a set time. I'm just going to be honest with you. I do not have a set time for writing. For me, it's just something I do when I feel like doing it. I write every day, but that's because I'm working on the script for the show or whatever I'm working on. So I do write every single day. There is not a day go by I'm not writing something.
Right.
But when it comes to my own personal creative writing, I'm not disciplined. And maybe I should be, but I've never been disciplined. I've always allowed it to happen
flow?
organically, you know. Yeah.
Sounds like we need to get somebody's book.
Yes.
But, you know, the other thing is going back to what he says about being disciplined, though. When I have those story ideas that we were talking about where I'll have a dream or something, and if I say it, I know I have to write it down. I come to the office and I'm going, oh my gosh, I've got a show, I've got to get edited today, it's got to get to Florida, I got to do this, got to do that. And then I'm thinking, nope, you cannot start this until you have this outline in the computer. So I suppose in some ways I am disciplined.
You are disciplined, yes.
Because I will not allow myself, I'll say, if you have to be here until midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, which I have been many times, and will be this week, I will put that in the computer before I allow myself to start the editing process.
But I think he's got a point. Discipline leads to success.
Yeah.
Yes, Michal, you're on the right track here.
Yeah, well, for me, it's so much easier when you are disciplined, because I could do that like you, James, but then I could just follow the wagon and then wake up a month later and, oh, heck, I didn't write for so long. Well,
Right.
So it's so much easier to maintain your momentum where you're writing every day and you know you have to write every day. And it's not even have to, it's what James Clear and I called identity habits. What you are saying, you are a writer, so you write every day, some other things. Well, in my definition of writer is I write every day something for which will be published, or I keep alive my writing streak.
So what is your
Yeah.
goal
Because-
with your writing? Do you intend to eventually phase out the IT and just become an author only?
Well, that would be so awesome. I have now 4 income streams, and writing is like 30% of it. And yeah, and it's good. It's really great. 6 years ago, it was only my day job. Yes,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
amazing, and I'm so happy about this. But I found, well, really that it's hard to like life of your writing. Yeah, you have many people who, well, live of writing. They have also many things on the side. It's like with my book marketing service. I needed to market my books. I learned how to advertise my books on Amazon. And then I started helping other folks with this stuff. And ta-dam, now it's like 30% of my income. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Well, I hate to cut you
it-
short,
it-
but Michal, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We're down to the last few minutes of the show, and I want to get in here your website so they can go to it's micalzone.com, or they can go to expandbeyondyourself.com. Where else can they go to learn about your work?
well, just type Michal Stawicki if you get it right.
Well, it's Michal, and then it's Stawicki. Yeah. And so can they
Thank
just,
you very
yeah.
much,
You're
James.
welcome.
I
All right.
cannot spell English letters because I missed this first lesson in the primary school. Sorry.
All right. So I'd like to thank our guest, Michal Stawicki. Like, how do you say, Joyce?
Michal Stawicki.
There we go. Along with my co-host, Janet Corsi, and my panelist, Joyce K. Gatchenberger.
There you
and
go.
to find
There you go.
links-
There's a reason why she can say it.
There you go.
And to find links to our guest website, please visit aspectsofwriting.com. There you'll find links to the video, which is on YouTube and also on Roku TV. You'll also find links to amfm247.com, where the show airs at 1 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time on Saturdays. We also are on Blog Talk Radio at 9 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time on Sundays. And that's Blog Talk Radio. And we have 14 terrestrial stations. So just go to the aspectsofwriting.com website to learn more. We also archive our shows there. We encourage our listeners to write to us. Let us know what you would like to discuss on future shows, how we can help you. If you're an author, whether a newbie or experienced, it doesn't matter. If you're in Warsaw, Sydney, or Boston, again, it does not matter. We can get you on the air no matter what. So just go to our contact page on Aspects of Writing. So until next week, this is your host, James Kelly, reminding you, if you can dream it, you can write it. Thank you again, Michal.
Great meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be on this show. Thank you.
Thank you.
They came to our world seeking new resources. Both Earth and Mars were lush with plant-life and mineral deposits. Unlike Mars, however, Earth was alive with a vast array of creatures, not unlike their past world, the one where they had evolved nearly 2 million years ago. It took them over 20,000 years to reach our solar system, and another 20,000 to return home and report their findings. To their dismay, all that remained of their civilization was decaying cities and wandering souls. It would take another 20,000 years to reach Earth with the intent of creating a new oasis. During their time in space, they lost the ability to breathe. Now they had a new mission, not only to settle Earth, but also to create a new life form to house their souls. By the time they had reached our world, only one man's seeds remained for creating a new life form on Earth. From the fruit of his loin, new man was created. In time, it was hoped that one of the species from the various primates they artificially inseminated would evolve to look like them. Theirs was a waiting game, To enter the Earth's atmosphere for a prolonged period of time would cause them to age and die before the transformation from primate to new man was complete. They needed new men to populate the Earth with shells for their souls, but time is running out. Could they intervene and create a new life form from Earth's primates in time to save their souls? And more importantly, are we at that stage in our history now? Perhaps they already walk among us. The answers lie with Daniel's story of abduction as leaked to the press, the alien transcripts.